All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Wednesday, March 19th. We're having a afternoon meeting of the School Building Committee and the Permanent Building Committee. First item on the agenda is an update on the open committee slot. But as people may know, we unfortunately lost one of our members, John Larkin, over in January, and we now needed to replace and have another person take his place. We previously, Al, and I probably butchered his last name, Valtor, had reached out for an open position in 2022, except that at that point in time, we ended up filling the spot. So he was interested in re-engaging, and so he's here today. I don't have the board to see everybody, so I assume Al is here.
I'm here.
Okay, so if you could just do us a favor and just give us the executive summary of your vast and experienced commercial background, that would be great to talk to the committee about.
So I've worked for, first of all, hello, everybody. My name is Al Votor, resident in town, have 4 kids in the school system. I've spent 22 years in commercial construction, all with John Moriarty and Associates. Most of my work has been in Cambridge and Boston, working on $100 million plus buildings, mostly in the life sciences realm of stuff, with some residential. I think that's the briefest I can be, Rick.
No, that's fine. That's good. So, and one of the things that was we found attractive is that you have the background in the larger projects. So, obviously, if and when the school project goes forward, that'd be something that'd be right up your alleyway. So that would be something between you and John McDonough, who is the electrical side. You know, we think we pretty well have it covered. You know, along with Vertex, because obviously they're lead set of eyes and ears, but it's always nice to have people who are in the background taking a peek also. So I don't know if anyone else in the committee had any questions for Al.
Welcome.
Rich, would you like us to introduce the team to Al?
Yeah, we probably should. Sorry about that. Thanks, Mike.
No worries. Welcome aboard, Al. My name is Mike Quinlan from Vertex. I'm a senior project manager with Vertex. We're the owner's project manager for the town of Millis.
Nice.
Jeff, do you want to?
Sure. Jeff D'Amico, the project director for Vertex, previously worked on the Clyde Brown Elementary School and the police and fire stations in town.
I'm Eric Rubin with Vertex, project manager, helping out with Mike and Jeff.
And Chris from Tape, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Chris Blesson from Tape Architects, one of the principals here. Worked with Jeff and I think Mike was on board at that time, but worked with Jeff on the Clyde Brown next door. And yeah, happy to meet you.
Although you don't have your groovy hat on today, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at actually.
All right, well, that's great. So you know, obviously we've talked. Also, the other members of the committee, Jim McCaffrey was actually the chair of the select board for many years, and his expertise in the law is always helpful. Ellen, do you want to say hi?
Sure, I'll say hi.
Hi.
Who's saying hi to?
To Al.
Oh, to the new guy?
Yes, to the new guy.
Yes, new guy. Thanks for sticking around with us for however many years. I'm not sure the wait's going to be worth it, but I don't know. Rich will make it as pleasurable as possible, right?
Correct.
Correct. Welcome.
Ellen's the chair of the select board.
Thank you for having me.
Currently. Thanks for volunteering. It's awesome. We appreciate it.
All right. So I think I'd like to.
What am I, chopped liver, Rich?
Oh, sorry, Diane. I can't see the whole screen.
Oh, yeah.
And go ahead.
Oh, I'm Diane Germain, PBC, SBC, second in command. How's that? I think
Correct.
vice chair sounds so.
Very
And
nice.
we, John Proctor here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm an interested Millis citizen, and I have some background in working with towns and large contractors in getting things built.
We get everybody, Robin?
Hi, Al. Welcome aboard. I don't know if you know what you're getting yourself into, but thanks for volunteering.
Shayna? Now she'll come back. There she is.
Hey Al, Shayna Canistrari. Oh, yeah, I'm here. Hi Al, it's Shayna Canistrari. Thanks for joining and welcome.
All right, and like I said, I can't see the whole screen, so I'm not sure who I'm missing,
Yeah.
but
John
I'll do
Engel.
this. I'll do the school.
Okay,
Oh, there we go, Bob.
Hi, Al, Bob Mulaney. I'm the superintendent of schools. Thank you very much for joining. And we really appreciate it. The schools. And then I'll turn it over to, I guess, the principals, and then we can do John and anyone else from the school that's on the call.
Fortunately, I think I know the principals.
Hi, Mr. Vator, Anna Hurley in the middle school.
And I'm Pat Nash, the high school principal. Nice to meet you.
Right.
John Miller, Director of Operations.
Well, it's very nice to meet all of you and very excited. So thank you very much for having me.
and John McDonough didn't say anything, did you?
Yeah, I usually like to follow up at the very end.
Okay.
Hi, Al. I'm John. It's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming aboard. It's nice to see, you know, the experience that you have. It'll be very helpful in the future.
Okay,
All right, great. All right, great. So I'm going to make a motion that we put Al's name forward to the select board for appointment to the PBC and the SBC committee.
Second the motion.
All right, motion's been seconded and all in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right, so it carried unanimously. All right, so that's great. So Al, you'll need to, Karen will reach out to you. You'll need to get sworn in, and you'll probably also have to do the ethics training at some point in time. So that's something you do online. And I passed it, so obviously that it must not be that hard to do. Anyhow, so that does it. And, you know, you could stick around for the rest of the meeting, but we wanted to, you know, say how excited we were to have you joining our group, and we want to hopefully have a big project that we'll be working on. So,
Absolutely.
all right,
Thank you.
next item on the agenda was to review the outcome of the 312 Facilities Assessment Committee meeting. Mike or Jeff, do you want to jump on that?
Yeah, I can give just a quick overview, and then Chris can chime in if I miss anything, Jeff. The long and the short of it is we had our required meeting with the Facilities Assessment Subcommittee of the MSBA after submitting our preferred schematic report in February. It was a very good presentation. There were actually surprisingly few questions that came out of it. There was a rather lengthy speech from Terry Kwan, which but surprisingly very little having to do with any required edits or changes to the ed plan. So overall, I think it came across as people were supportive. There was a little bit of feedback on the architectural side regarding entry sequence, mainly around the separation between high school and middle school entries in the preferred option. So, you know, Chris and his team will take a look at that in the schematic phase and incorporate that. You know, those comments, I'm sure will make it through to the MSBA board vote that will occur at the end of April. Overall, I think it went well, and not a lot to report in terms of any tweaks to the design or ed plan other than what I mentioned. Chris, anything from your perspective that was missed?
Nope. I think you did a good job.
Jeff, anything to add or?
No, they really saw the value that the committee did in terms of evaluating all the options and looking at the whole ladder. There was no negatives to push back, which was excellent news. They, applauded the district on their balanced cost approach, right? And I think they understand the risks that are out there globally in all towns in the state. And so really complimentary to the town for really taking the time to analyze your options. That's it.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So with these updates, so at our select board meetings moving forward, we have a placeholder to talk about the school. If there's any interesting articles in the Globe, we talk about them, we bring updates. So this last piece that you had, whatever positive stuff you have, if you could send me a little blurby email so that I can
We can do
say
that.
at every single meeting, I'm trying to keep this very much in people's heads, and the more positive, the better. And that sounds very positive to me. So
Yep.
awesome. Thank you.
We do that at our school committee meetings too. I'm not sure if anyone listens to them, but we give updates and have it on our agenda and tell all the people all the things, but who
Okay.
knows if they watch it.
It doesn't matter. So do you want to
We'll-
be CC'd on this, Robin?
We'll,
Yeah, sure.
we'll put a summary email together and distribute it to you, Ellen, and to Robin, and then you can share it with your respective committees,
Perfect.
boards.
Can you just copy the other SBC members so we know what's?
Of course.
That'd
Yep.
be great. Thanks.
All right, Mike, did you want to jump on to the work plan
Yep.
schedule?
Yeah, just, let me finish writing my notes so I don't forget that. All right. All right, so now let's show Al what he's in for. What do you say? Let me share my screen here. So obviously there was good news coming out of the FAS meeting, but we now have to sort of refocus our efforts moving forward. We have a lot to get through in a relatively short period of time as we approach the fall town meeting and ballot vote to get the project approved funding wise. So what I distributed out was a draft of our work plan that we've developed for this phase of the project. They're called the schematic design phase. This includes regular meetings of this body as well as the working group that we've been working with through the project, as well as regular touch bases with TAP A and Vertex, which, to a certain extent, the dates we're going to clean up a little and make that a little bit more regular. But this is our first approach at showing sort of what it's going to take to get through schematic and the requirements we're going to need of the working group as well as this entire SBC, and what the topics might be for each of those meetings over the course of the coming months. So starting with today with just an overview of the schedule and the FAS update, and then looking to move on as Chris and his team starts to develop the project in schematic design. Now that we have that preferred option, some of the first things he's going to do is look at the space summary template, make sure that we take that program, which is an Excel file, and really explore what spaces need to be adjacent to each other, so adjacencies, et cetera, of spaces. He's started that in the PSR phase with the latest floor plans, but obviously some of that was done without a lot of feedback. So we're going to bring that to you for feedback and look at sort of the community area organization. That's gym, cafeteria, stage, service areas, and also start to incorporate feedback and look for feedback on outdoor fields and play areas if needed, but overall landscape design, site design, and then
Mike,
moving.
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Outdoor fields are not part of this deal. I mean, so
Yeah, it's more landscape. I apologize for the term. It's used as generic.
I guess that
I'll take that
terminology is potentially, I don't want to call it explosive, but it's a big deal. I don't know whether I'm not in favor of eliminating the thought of what might we do, but I mean, let's not try to pretend to people that we're gonna commit to
Sure.
fixing fields when we aren't. I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
if I agree with that or not, but
No, I agree with
I was
that.
gonna mention that.
Yep. And that's good feedback. Thanks, Jim. And then getting into the academic wings of the middle school and the high school, as well as library and what's called enrichment spaces like arts and music, and site circulation, parking, et cetera. That usually involves the civil engineer and potentially the landscape architect as well. And then coming back after going through some of that with the working group, coming back to this body in April with sort of updated site plans and floor plans, a final space program review, which is that Excel spreadsheet, and then an update again as this on this document on the work plan schedule. This is intended to be a working schedule and a living document. So it will evolve over time as we get feedback and look at areas that may require more investigation than others. You will see changes to this over time.
can I just also another
Go ahead.
comment? Maybe Ellen, I mean, as of the end of March, we can't do virtual anymore, but the legislature's working on it. I mean, are they doing anything? Are they extending this? Or are we gonna be able to do
I
these
heard they
virtual?
extended it another year. Did I hear
Well,
that today?
The House
Yeah,
voted.
I think till the summer of 27.
Okay, they finally signed, both of them signed off on that, Senate and House.
I believe so. I was at the
Good.
select board meeting and I was at town hall today and I think Mike said that.
It
That's
seems
good.
like every
Okay.
time they come up on the deadline, it's like it just keeps getting kicked down the road. Usually sometimes I know there were a couple of deadlines where it was literally like, the night before it was supposed to expire.
I think it's supposed to land on the governor's desk Friday.
So if she signs it,
That's-
then we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But obviously, if we need to adjust, we'll adjust in terms of schedule and meeting in person.
Yeah, and Mike, some of these dates we have, we have conflicts.
Conflicts. Yeah. Well, that's why we put this out there, is because this is our proposal, right? And
Yeah,
then
okay.
if we need to tweak dates specifically, by all
Yeah,
means.
Mike, could we have Bob in the school look at that, just because
course.
I think you guys have you have things that you can't move, so it would be great if you guys could get ahead of that for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the intention here is for the entire committee to, look at this, and if we have significant conflicts with, especially the schools, but if we struggle to reach a quorum for certain dates and we have to adjust, then we should do that as soon as possible, because, obviously, given the timeframes, we can't push things out too much because we have a lot to get through between now and November. But in terms of, we've been working off of our, standard Wednesday meetings, but if there are ones that conflict, especially for Bob and the principals, then we will need to adjust those. So obviously, anybody wants to send feedback, just respond to my email with this attached and, send me the meetings that are conflicts, and I'll try to resolve them with the whole committee.
Yeah, so for so for the next one, the 26th, we're probably interviewing principal candidates that day. March 26th.
March 26th for the
So,
working.
but that
okay.
might be something that, I can check with the principals and John and see if we can do it, just if later in the day would work for people.
Did
Okay.
you say you're interviewing principals?
Yeah, elementary.
Okay, just checking.
Yep. No need to change. We can reconstitute the board.
All right, thank you.
All right. And then, as we move on, towards the end of April, we would want to do a mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection introduction with Chris's engineering team to start to surface, certain thoughts about what the MEP systems might look like, and what preferences the schools may have or the town may have. Certainly John you're gonna be important in terms of feedback in that regard as well, John Engler.
Can you page
Just to-
down, Mike?
What's that?
Page down to get to,
I'm right here. I'm sorry.
Okay. it's all right.
I'm on April 30th right now.
Yep,
Can you see it okay, Diane?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, Mike, on that, we definitely want to make sure that we take a good look at that because of some of the issues we had over the Clyde Brown. I mean, I know Chris said, one of the things is the mechanical engineer and the plumbing engineer is different, correct, than last time? Because we had some issues there with that.
Yes, they are different.
Okay.
And that often gets paired with sustainability and lead. We've talked about that a little bit throughout this process. We'll want to go into a little bit more detail on how we're going to achieve LEED Silver, which is sort of the minimum standard that we need to hit. We know we're not going to go beyond that, but we want to make sure we're tracking that, and MEP systems are a significant portion of LEED. So we'll want to look at that. And then the other thing we want to make sure we come to a formal conclusion on is whether the project is priced as a construction manager at risk project, Chapter 149A, or a general contractor project, what's known as Chapter 149. That decision ultimately will need to be made and voted on by this committee. And then we will need, if this committee chooses to go with a construction manager at risk approach, we just need to get that all applied to the Inspector General's office for approval. So we'll want to make sure we do that as well.
Can you give us a quick, what's the difference?
Sure. So Chapter 149, or a general contractor, is a standard approach to construction where it's basically a low bid approach, where basically we take the design from the architects and engineers, we put that on the street for bidding, and really the contractors are buying the set of documents that's on the street. So whatever is contained in them from the drawings and specifications. Chapter 149A is the construction manager at risk approach. And this is different in that the construction manager is brought on during the design process before the design is complete. It's a negotiated contract for pre-construction. And then basically you're buying you're buying the expertise of a construction manager to assist through the design process. And then the construction manager will assist in bringing on the sub-trades necessary for that project to complete that project. So if you think about it, the general contractor approach, you're buying whatever is contained in the design documents. A CM at risk approach is really buying the expertise. You're buying a team member, and they're helping to close some of the holes that may exist, and working with the team to make sure, from their perspective as a construction manager, that the project before it goes on the street has everything it needs in order to perform the project well and complete the project on time.
So
and
Rich,
budget.
what did you do for Clyde?
Clyde Brown was the CM at risk. So with the CM at risk, what you end up having with a bid, it's a bid, and then they try to change order you to death.
That's
With
right.
the CM at risk, the thought process is that you
You're gonna catch
basically
a lot of it.
they partner with somebody and they work with the town versus that. So, but there is the risk of cost is always a risk one way or the other. So
Okay.
There's also, is it Chapter 149 is also, you're putting it out there and the lowest bidder is getting the job.
Correct.
Regardless. So the choice of who gets a job may not be in our hands. Chapter 149A, there is a certain group of subcontractors that will be a sub bid that we will not get to choose, but in general, we will get to choose a majority of them as well, correct?
Right. If you think about it, with a CM at risk approach, you're really buying the team. So you're able to be more selective about who you're bringing on as your contractor. We'll provide more detail. We'll have a whole meeting to go into this in depth before we make any decisions. But generally speaking, the more complex the project, the more phasing, the more, the logistics around an ad reno tend to lean towards a CM, and you do tend to pay a little bit of a premium up front. Whereas with a general contractor, those you tend to get best value when it's a greenfield site and you're, kind of isolated and you can have a contractor. You start to see the value of a low bid approach when they're pretty simple projects. So
Ellen, excuse me. We had CM on Clyde Brown.
Yep.
If you remember, we came in $4 million under budget.
Yep. I would imagine with one, you're gonna pay a little bit more upfront, but hopefully you're gonna make it up by the end of the project. That's
Well,
my,
we did, I think, on Clyde Brown, so.
So then we just put in some suggested dates for public forums. We want to make sure that throughout this process, especially as we're preparing for a major vote, that we give the public plenty of opportunity to provide feedback and also to hear and be updated on the most current information. So again, looking for feedback from this group about frequency and timing of these public forums. So what we've included in there is just a suggestion. So really looking for you all to take a look at those and figure out, if it makes sense, if there's other ones we need to do. And we can also talk about the format of them, whether they're in person, whether they're virtual, whether, there are selective road shows that we need to do with certain constituency groups, like a council on aging presentation or, something similar to that. So then as we start off in early May, again, doing some more investigation into MEP and sustainability, that's going to be a multi-meeting approach there. That's why you see it. And then we roll down into middle of May, where we start talking about exterior massing, exterior materials, brick versus metal panel versus glass. And Chris and his team will develop different massing options just to kind of get a schematic design together. We'll start talking about security. Obviously, this is hugely important with schools these days. That will have to loop in public safety, so police department, fire department, etc., just as we start to evaluate the design on that, as well as low voltage, like technology, instructional technology, and audio visual, as we start to incorporate that into the schematic design, make sure we have it built in and all priced up. And then go ahead.
This is Jim.
Yep.
I know with Clyde Brown, we were at some point during the process on security, we had virtually executive sessions. I mean, the security is fine, but I mean, at some point, we're still going to have to do,
We'll do that separately.
in a way that doesn't advertise what we're doing. I guess that's
correct. Those don't have to be public meetings. Those will be kept separate. We'll provide updates to the full SBC, but we don't have to sit here in the SBC and go through the security plan so that it's, all out in the public. Yes, that can definitely be done through the working group and executive session and however you want to handle that. Absolutely.
Good. Thank you.
Yep. I put us, another public forum in May, again, trying to take advantage of, how people check out in the summer. So we want to get a few on the books in the spring just to make sure before people check out for the summer that they're engaged in the project, where we could start to show them updated site and floor plans and massing strategies and some of that, some of the decisions you'd made earlier in May. And then as we roll into June, starting to look at interior concepts, interior design and finishes, what the interior inside of the building would look like, the addition, as well as the renovated classrooms, and as well start to talk about FF&E or furniture, fixtures and equipment. If you think about FF&E, it's really if you took the building and shook it upside down, what would fall out? These are things that are not permanently affixed to the building. So we'll want to go through that as a basic with TAPE, and develop some concepts there, as well as finalizing sort of the schematic level of MEP systems. So when I say something like final MEP systems review in June, that doesn't mean final for the project. It means final for schematic design. You know, we have to take it to a certain point where we can price it, and then it gets approved, and then there'll be much more in-depth detail meetings if the project is approved in design development and construction documents, the future phases.
Mike,
just one question for you. Oops, sorry, Jim. On the FF&E, you'd probably do that as a breakout meeting with the school, because, you know, that would be something that, you know, the SBC be interested in, but I don't really, I don't really have a lot of feedback on desks.
Yep, understood.
Mike.
Go ahead, Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
Rich, question is, with Clyde Brown, the FF&E was, throughout the building, because it was a brand new building.
Yep.
Is there any change in scope if it's just a reno, or is it similar in terms of what we need to look at in terms of furniture, not just furniture, but cabinet, whatever it is you need?
So it's entirely up to you how far you want to go with it. There are some caps, obviously, in terms of what the MSBA will and won't reimburse for. It's usually a fixed number. How far you want to go with it and what furniture you might be able to salvage only decreases the amount you'll spend. That said, I don't know that there's been an evaluation yet of what existing furniture could possibly be reused, but that should be part of the overall analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll look to work with the schools for them to advise the condition of the furniture at this stage of the process, right? So they can tell us what they want to reuse or not. Where you're consolidating, I imagine there's enough stuff to reuse in pieces of the building, but then there's also a certain look and equity, and those are conversations that the school department and the building committee will debate. Whether it wants to be a fresh look entirely, or whether it wants to be, portions are renovated and portions are new.
Bob, we're getting you a bottle of Pledge. There you go.
We just have to get the bees out of Bob's office.
I got my first one today, Mike. They're back.
I agree with you, Rich. I don't think you wanna, if the furniture and stuff is usable, to start to talk about millions in that I don't think that's a good look.
We have some furniture that's usable, but we have other stuff that should go.
Okay.
Anyway, the point being, just for this group, is that we're going to go space by space, and we're going to talk about it, and then obviously it's up to you as a committee to decide how far you want to go with it, and what that'll mean from a budget perspective. So
I have a question about saving other things. There was just a beautiful mural put on the wall, so I'm wondering if there's any thought as to how we can potentially salvage some of the artwork that students have created, or ways that we can kind of think creatively to somehow keep them and put them in the new building.
Yeah, I won't speak for Chris, but I think that's definitely possible, depending on course on what wall it's on. If it's on a wall that's being demolished, I'm not sure how we'll be able to salvage it, but understanding those types of things and that are in the building that you'd like to salvage is going to be a part of the discussion, because we'll want to incorporate that as much as we can. So if you identify those things, we can then evaluate, what our options are for salvage and potentially either reinstall. Oftentimes there's, plaques, there's lots of things throughout the history of these schools that people want to salvage and keep and carry forward.
Okay, thanks.
So yes, so if you're beginning to think about those things, write them down, and we can funnel those through to Chris, and he can start to work with his team about what our options will be.
Mike, we had a time capsule at Clyde Brown, which we dug up and made a big deal out of, opening up the time capsule. Robin, do you know if there's one at the middle high?
I'm not sure, but
I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
We
Maybe
can
that's
ask-
something we can make though.
Well, you can certainly do a
You
new
can
one.
certainly
but
do
we
a new
had-
one, yeah.
Sure.
We had a 50-year-old one.
Yeah. I don't
Ask
know. We
Mr.
can look through some papers and the internet and see if there was any.
Ask Mr. Clocko, you might remember.
So as we work through June, it'd be great to get a public forum again before the end of school or just thereafter before people check out for the summer. And then as we work through June as a group, moving again through a second pass through the floor plan and massing and interior finishes. And then as we get through July and August, obviously are largely heads down time with the design team to make sure we're documenting everything and finalizing what the pricing set will look like. The pricing set will go out in the middle of July in order to meet the timeline that we need, with the schematic design estimates due at the beginning of August. We'll bring that back once those are fully reconciled with the two estimators, and bring that back to the SBC so that we can do a final budget and estimate review for before we finalize the submission of schematic design. That submission needs to be sent to the MSBA at the end of August. So we'll have a couple of meetings in August to go over that budget and estimate, and then there may be some feedback that comes out of that requires some tweaking. That's why we have 2 meetings set right now for August. So the last meeting in August, culminates with a final review of the SD report, similar to what we did with this preferred schematic report. And then that'll be submitted. You will vote to submit that to the MSBA right now slated for August 20th. And then we would be looking again in a similar fashion for the select board and the school committee to endorse that submission. And we can talk about the logistics of how that'll go, whether it's the same as how the PSR went, or if we can arrange for a joint meeting just to do it all at once. So we'll talk about the logistics of that before we get to August. And then come end of August, we need to submit the SD submission by August 28th. We put in placeholders. Once we submit that to the MSBA, there's sort of some load time on the design side, but that's when we need to start plugging in. We'll plug in here some more public forums and road shows, because really as people come back from the summer and start to get involved in the schools and everything more in the fall, we'll want to make sure that this is on the front of their mind before we get to the town meeting votes, which are slated for November. We'll also, once we submit that to the MSBA, we have a required scope and budget review meeting with them in September. And then ultimately the MSBA board will vote in at their meeting on October 29th to advance the project. And I was told by Diane that November 19th is your town meeting date for November. So we've got that put on there, and ultimately we'll need to schedule when the ballot vote will occur. So just as a reminder, we need a town meeting vote approval, which I believe is 2/3 majority of town meeting, and then a town ballot vote, which is a simple majority, in order to get funding approval from the town of Millis.
And Mike, just to be clear, we'll have a pretty accurate cost estimate by August, correct for that?
That's correct. Yep.
Because that's the first thing we're gonna do is once we get a real number of where we're going to, that's when we can start really putting on the gas on, working towards getting it to town meeting.
Yeah, and we'll work with the town to develop, oftentimes what people, voters are looking for is, what is the cost impact to, your average household in terms of the tax impact? They'll want to know, how's it going to hit my wallet? What's it going to mean for tax increase, et cetera? All of that type of information we'll want to make sure is surfaced you know, in September and October before we get to the November votes, so that people are as informed as they can be coming to town meeting and subsequently to the ballot.
But Mike, the August number is not going to reflect what the MSBA is actually going to grant us, right?
It will.
It will.
So that's part of the scope and budget review meeting where
It's not going to give you the final number.
the final
but
number,
we
right?
Yeah,
won't
but it's
have the
going to
final.
be,
It'll be more dialed in.
it'll be reasonably close.
Right.
Yeah, so right now we submitted the package that we just submitted, and so we'll get comments back on that, which should identify the areas of the building that are ineligible, which will help fill in those gaps that I didn't know when I gave you the projections back in January. And so by the time we get to August, we're reasonably close.
So we won't be with so much as a range. It'll be a little closer to a number. I mean, I'm sure there's some range, but
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be $1 million range, to be honest, like just because I don't want to, commit to an exact number with the
Right.
public.
Yep.
But we'll know that date I threw on there, that orange date, mid-September, that'll give you the final. So about 3 weeks after we submit on the August 28th, we'll have a meeting, we'll negotiate on your behalf, we'll push it as far as we can push it, and then that'll spit out a number. And so by the 3rd week of September, we'll know the final number, and then by October 29th, they vote the number.
so I mean, the volatility that we're probably going to expect to see happen, is going to be happening over the next few months.
Correct.
I mean, and then, of course,
He's got 4 years in office, Jim, so that you never know what the next 3 years are going to bring. But
Oh yeah, all we can do is react to the most current information, because it changes so drastically day to day.
right.
Hopefully that settles down between now and the end of the summer.
Boy, are you smoking what?
Don't count on it. Jeez.
Hey, I can dream, Jim. I can dream.
But what's the name of the firm that does the pricing? I forget their name.
There's two. There's PM&C and AM Fogarty that we use for estimating.
Well, we've done PM&C before, I guess, so it's really on their.
They're like the main two that are on every single project.
We've done Fogarty too.
They must be interesting, have interesting discussions.
Oh yeah. We're getting lots of questions about that, and unfortunately, there aren't a lot of answers.
If you do a CM,
Al could probably relate to this. We talk to a lot of construction managers all the time, and the general feel right now, and it's speculation because obviously the number changes day to day, but the general feel is that if the steel and aluminum tariffs are at the 25% level that was originally proposed, it's looking at a 1 to 3% hit to a construction budget.
Okay.
So if you factor in that, people often see 25% and they go, I'm going to pay 25% more. It's not like that. It'll just impact certain parts of the job.
Right.
It certainly doesn't impact labor, which is a big part of the job. So right now, the projections from some of the biggest CMs we work with are a 1 to 3% hit to budgets.
Well, we won't be using French champagne apparently, but they
No.
open.
Nope.
All right, so
we
that
can't
sounds
christen
good.
the building with champagne.
Okay, thanks.
So the takeaway from that though is that we'll have to firm up some of those dates. So I think the school will have to get those firmed up, and then on the public forums, I think we'll work ahead on getting those set up so we don't end up with a scramble like we had on a couple of them where we were trying to find a room and that kind of stuff. So we think we should work on setting those up ahead of time.
Yeah, really need your feedback on this. This is, again, a proposal and suggested dates. If they all work, great. Obviously, if there's conflicts, let us know. We will rework this. We'll work with Chris and his team to make sure that we have coverage from not only his team, but his consultants that need to inform all these meetings. But obviously, this is... we extended out the PSR to really get to a point which it was really valuable for the town. But we want to make sure this is a little bit more compressed on the schematic side. So we want to make sure we hit all these dates, because if we don't hit town meeting this year, that becomes a bigger problem. So.
And Mike, these community forums, would they include tours? Because I think
They
tours
can.
would be useful.
They're like whatever you think is best, you guys know this community far better than we do, so whatever you think will be best to get people to an understanding of what the need is and why this is the right time to do the project and why this is the right project for Millis. If you think tours will help with that, then, we can do that. We can help, we can work with you to support you and whatever you need. It may be that the community forums are separate from that, and maybe
Yeah.
you just pick a Saturday and you open the schools and you invite people in between 9 and 11 or something like that. And if you feel like that will get you to a yes vote, then it is well worth it.
Thank you.
Bob, we did a lot, we did a lot of that with Clyde Brown.
Yeah.
And if I remember one of the forums we did, it was raining and there were buckets in the,
So pick
in
a
the
rainy
dirt.
day in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, our new thing is if we open the windows a little bit, we have less rain come in than if the windows are closed.
That's the pressure. Yeah.
It channels the water out rather than in.
And the bees, do you know where they are?
Well, I don't know. It's quiet here now, but
Jeez.
got one earlier today. John had one in his office too.
So Chris, I wanted to give Chris an opportunity. I don't know if you needed to add anything, Chris, or if there's anything I missed that you want to comment on.
I don't think so. I mean, we've looked at this, we marked our calendars. I think we're on board, and I think the sort of biggest thing from the district side to expect that's coming very soon, our team's going to reach out and start organizing, but a bunch of programming meetings that we do, where we meet with department heads and basically try to narrow down into very, very specific scopes that help us do preliminary furniture plans, but also plan the space appropriately so that we can make sure the sizes and adjacencies are right. It's a few days of all-day meetings that people cycle in and out of, but we'll reach out to the district about that when we're ready to set them up and give you some notice for it. So
Great, thank you.
and it'll happen before the end of this school year. So
Any other questions from the committee?
Nope, I think that sounds good, Mike. Thank you.
I have
Great.
a couple of questions actually.
Sure, go ahead,
Sorry,
Robin.
I'm new, so I'm
No worries.
my questions are around the community forum stuff, because I've had parents come up to me asking me questions already. And so I'm wondering, like, who prepares the information that we are giving out to the community? I'd like it to be like all the same information so that it's not like you're getting this information from me and someone else is getting some other information from Diane. It's, like I want to have like this unified message, and people are already asking. So I'm wondering who makes that information, like the infographics, the graphics, whatever, like.
Yeah, I can answer that question, Robin. I can answer that question. So everything should be going through the SBC on this. I mean, the whole idea, like you said, is we need a unified message. So right now we're gathering information so we can have a message that's intelligent. Okay, so there are specific questions that can be answered, by Diane or myself, or if we need to, we can get Jeff. But yeah, I agree. We need to have a unified message when we go forwards.
Right, but like, who's making that information? Like,
With the set,
are you doing it, Rick? Like, are you coming up and making the graphics and the slides with the here's the new school thing? Like,
right. Okay, so at this point in time, so any of the graphics and slides have been through Vertex and Tape. So they are the ones that have been presenting those to date. Those are what we've been using today because we have nothing other than that. But we will need to present, like you said, a unified, cohesive, and that would be through the SBC. So that's everything should be going through us. We're the controlling, you guys are in charge of figuring out how the school works. We're in charge of building it. That's how it works.
Okay,
no,
so
I
when,
understand that. But
I
like,
get what Robin's saying, but when does that all start, Rich?
yeah, like I was at an event for my kids' like end of year basketball thing with like 10 parents, and they were asking me stuff about this. And I'm like, So yeah, we're not building a new school, we're adding on and we're renovating and this, and like, so I'm like ad hocing, giving them information. So I
Right,
just
so the
feel
web
like,
we have right now, that we have a great website that Vertex put together. So that would be my first go-to is, hey, we've got a great web page all together that has all the information on it. And then start off with that. And then if there are more specific questions, they can submit them to the website for, questions to be answered. So, I mean, all this stuff is public. It's all on the website. So, I mean, that not to be, the best and most accurate information is contained there.
So maybe I can help here too. So
Not a good answer.
we obviously, and we in TAP A have, all of the background data and everything. So I think we can help support you in what you feel is the best way to communicate that. A lot of towns do, an FAQ, which is often like what are the 10 most common questions that you're getting? And let's address those, and we can work together as a committee and the project team to develop responses to those. And then that becomes something that you can hand out or email or something like that as just a simple way of it, however you think is best to disseminate the information. We're here to support you. So if you need graphics, if you need information slides, we're here to support that. But obviously, to your point, this group should be unified in what information is being presented, what the format is of that information, and how it's being disseminated.
And some of the things we have to be concerned about. Some of
Go
the things we need to be concerned about is that, like the cost estimates and things, we have a preliminary cost estimate. We still have a lot of choices to make. We don't want to release, we don't want to release a whole bunch of information and say, oh, it's going to be this, and then have it be something different, because that wouldn't be what we want to do. These are right now preliminary plans. In August, we'll have a real good idea of exactly what the costs are going to be. We'll have a good idea of what the finishes are going to be. So some of this stuff, we need time. Right now, we're going to buy a car. It's going to have 4 wheels. It's going to have a windshield and a steering wheel. We're working our way towards figuring out what type of car it is.
no, I understand all the things, but like getting back to what you were saying about the like FAQ, like who is making that? Like, how do I get it to give it to someone? Am I making that because you're giving me that information? Like, that's what I need to understand.
We could add, Mike, if we don't have an frequently asked questions, so why don't we forward any of the frequently asked questions so we can make one and add it to the website? So, Mike, could you have your team start a FAQ list?
Yeah, if you want to funnel through us what you're hearing and any of the questions that you're getting from the community, then we can pull that together. But obviously the responses need to come from you as the town. So once maybe we get a list from you guys of what you're hearing in the community and what are the things that you as a committee most want to make sure is clear as possible before a town vote.
Okay,
We can help you develop that, but obviously, it's about what you're hearing from your constituents.
okay, we need kind of, so we talked about this. We've been, Robin and I and John Law from Finance and Bob Mullaney. There needs to be a marketing package, right? I get that they can go on the website and see the school and the new level and the new gym and how the high and the middle are gonna be separate. I get all that. But now we need a marketing campaign. And I have 5 or 6 things. I mean, a lot of it has to do with simply that we're going to be spending this money one way or another. Do you want to spend it in a nice cohesive that we have a nice product at the end, or do you want it to be slapsticky? That's a big piece of this puzzle. But
yes, I want to know who's making the marketing campaign. Who's doing that? How are we getting that?
Yeah.
Are we doing that? Is this committee doing that?
I think we're
Ellen and I doing it?
No, it's not.
How do we do this?
No. So, you as elected officials, you've got to balkanize yourselves from your private life, from your public life, right? And so ultimately the marketing can't be you, right?
Okay.
There are state statutes that say what you can or can't say. It's more allowable for you to say certain things when it relates to a town meeting versus a ballot, right? And so even amongst that, the literature, if it refers to a ballot versus the town meeting, there are things you can or can't say. And there are trip hazards along the way, which we can
Right.
try and help. And there are people at the state that can, you know,
The basics, I think, is you as a public body can disseminate information, but you cannot advocate.
right.
Yes.
So you
Very
can't be
fine
out there
line.
telling people to vote yes, but you can
Yes.
disseminate the information about
But
the.
Can,
listen,
can I
all-
just provide feedback from, or provide some information? There is a parent group that has already formed a PAC.
Okay,
They
that's good.
have a chair, they have a treasurer, they have someone who has volunteered to handle marketing. So what we need to do is provide them the information where they can make it. This is the part where, as residents, can we then help them make the marketing message as we want it to be? Is
You
that
can provide them with information. I'll sort of leave it at that. Like your role
listen,
as a public body is to inform the public,
yes.
but you cannot take a formal advocating position.
But can't the
So-
PAC do that? The parent
Well, the
PAC?
PAC
can,
can, but
absolutely.
Shayna's
That's
point is
what
that, like, I mean,
That's
Can
what
we-
Shane is
There-
talking about the parent PAC right now.
yeah, I know, but
we
she's also
also
asking
need-
about herself. Like, there's,
Well, I'm just
There's-
saying from the perspective, we want them to have the correct messaging, like the
Mm-hmm.
correct, the message that we, having been through overrides or school builds or other town building builds before, the kind of the appropriate direction of marketing.
Well,
makes sense.
Diane, where's Diane? Is she still here?
I'm right
Yep.
here.
Diane, you were so involved with the Clyde. What did you guys do?
We went to two people to help us out. One was Sharon Egler and the other was Erin
Underhill.
Underhill. Thank you. Brain fart.
Okay.
They did some marketing because we couldn't do it. That was back when we were debating with one of the residents about where the school could go. And
I remember, yeah.
And
Yeah,
from
so I mean,
there,
you can do different things, and there's
Yeah.
lots of areas of gray right here. But you know, if any member of this group is visiting with the PAC and giving insight and feedback, you know, but it's not the official direction of this committee, you guys can do that kind of stuff. But you know, it is a slippery slope.
Right.
You know, it can't be that this committee is recommending this is your marketing campaign, please go forth and deliver it. But you can say what you think the marketing campaign should be, and they can funnel questions through the FAQ back to this group that then turns to the consultants and says, answer these FAQs and put them on the website. Then they're available for that committee the PAC to then pull down from these posted locations to get the information they need. So there's circuitous paths to get what you need. But we just have to be careful with how you navigate that.
Jeff,
And
is
we
there
also-
a, to do like a do's and don'ts 101 that we could have?
Yeah, we could,
On paper that, you know, I have no idea what I can and can't say, so.
yeah, believe me, I got to remind myself from time to time. So yeah, we'll source that and send you guys the link of what the Inspector General says is allowable and not allowable.
There's also
yeah,
there's also some quick videos you can watch that the state puts out that give you a quick overview, especially for new members of public committees. I would suggest watching some of those. It just gives a better understanding of what your responsibilities are and what you can and can't say.
Shayna and Robin, do you have any patent questions that you're getting asked over and over and over again, other than why do we need this?
I think obviously the number one question is something we can't provide them until September.
How is it going to impact them on their taxes?
Yes, so I think right now we just have to focus on education of what factually is wrong with the building tours. And then, updates obviously of where we are with our project, sharing that information. No one's going to come to the meetings. and listen in. So it's more about just making sure that this pack has information graphics to disseminate, whichever way they do it on social media. And that can be whatever graphics that we can get from the team here. And then also the community forums where we have pictures of what's falling apart in the building, schedule those walking tours through the building. And they said the last time I talked to this group, they had a contact over at the Glen, and they're open to having them go and speak to them about the project. So really, the number one thing we can't tell them yet, but we can roadshow all of the problems with the school.
What about, Bob Mulaney, you're on here. Did you guys do a video of the Clyde Brown and get that up posted somewhere?
Yeah, they did, Ellen, but I think we need to edit it. I mean, it was a little bit, I think it needed a little bit of polish. It was good information, but I think we would need to tune it up a bit to make it.
Can we get Millis video? Can we get can we get Madeline over there to do it?
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually meeting with her tomorrow, so I can.
Why don't you ask her?
That.
What about something simple like? Hold on one sec, Jim. What about something simple like a piece of paper where you have the left side existing and the right side post construction, where you middle school and high school are one, they're two, and something simply visual like that. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to weigh in for a minute on who's going to do what. I think it's very important for members of this committee and elected officials to go back to the state guidance to determine what you can and cannot do. It's not that hard. A lot of what's being described here is advocacy, and we can't substitute this PAC for, if it's directed by the elected officials or the committee members, you're really subject to problems. And, there's people who are against this project who will look for reasons to try to stop it. And I think it's very important that everybody understand what they can and cannot do. And just as a general proposition, if we're going to have a political action committee come to an organization or a group like the Glen, it has to be absolutely clear that that's not the committee. It's not the elected officials. It's a third party that's getting its information from somebody else. I think school committee members who are advising that PAC would be very careful about what they can and cannot do, and make it very clear to people if you're going to make a statement, tell them something that the committee or this board has not authorized. You have to make sure you tell them you're speaking for yourself and not on behalf of the committee. I think this is great ideas out here, but this needs to be reined in. Otherwise, we're going to run into trouble.
Correct. And that's what I was trying to say, is that this has to be, we need to be very carefully manage this. So, we do all want to get the information out there, but we want to make sure we do it the right way.
Okay.
I'll send this website around. This is, as someone who serves as the chair of my building committee in town, I'm very familiar with open meeting law and some of the restrictions that, and this talks a lot about open meeting law in general and what you can and can't do. So I strongly suggest that people take a look at it, browse it, get to understand, and make sure, to Jim's point, where you stand in terms of what you're able to do. Like I said, if you conceptually think of it as this committee can inform, but cannot advocate, and that's the delicate line that we need to walk here.
So like we could do a community forum at the Glen. It's just information. We just we won't have signs that say vote on whatever question.
Well, Bob, it's who's we. We could.
I mean,
this committee
could do it, and it's going to do it, right? Maybe.
Correct. And we would support that, and Chris's team would support that, what you needed for that. Yep.
But if another group wants to do it, well, okay, fine. It has to be clear. Look, I don't think there's I don't want to just focus in on the Glen because there's a lot of
Right.
people over here. I happen to be here. There's a lot of people over at Acorn Place. I mean, I think it's right to talk about the groups that you're going to have to focus on. If we focus this attention on the parents, okay, the parents are 25% of the voters. We have to do the outreach to the people who are not parents, and I think it's important to do that. But I think it's very important. As a member of this committee, I'd like to know who's doing what. And it's an outline of this is not a communication plan, folks. This is a list of public forums. The communication plan involves a lot of other things. And it's good to know what a third party is doing, like this PAC, but it's not up to us to guide them, and it's not up to us to keep track of them. We can inform them, but it's up to them to do what they want to do in terms of advocating.
They just want the information.
Got it.
I don't think it has to be shoved down anybody's throat just to present. People just want answers.
Yeah, I think that,
You
I know it's trite to say, well, just look at the website.
No,
But it's
no.
very, no, I mean, for that group to get the real facts rather than getting it through some third party one sheeter, I think it's important to try to utilize the website. Now, I'm getting overly excited here because I just don't want us to run. I mean, I was on the board when we had a voter who went bananas over part of this stuff, and it cost us thousands of dollars to defend it in court and months of delay, which we can't afford for this project, the months of delay in particular.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's why we want to make sure that we, everything is, disseminated in the correct way. That's kind of, we applaud the enthusiasm, but we have to be careful. That's the whole key on all this.
Let me ask a fundamental question on community forum. So we had sprinkled 3, right? The one for April 30th was really looking backwards. It's really what was presented to all the boards in February, and it became the package you guys submitted at the end of February. That could happen before April vacation or after. I just pushed it out to after April vacation. If we want to have this is the project meeting, which reflects what was already been presented to the 3 boards, just facing to the public, we can gear that up before April vacation, right? And that's a possibility that kind of helps get that out, kind of the status of where we're at. The second meeting in May 28th was really new data, the work that's going to happen over the month of April and May that was going to actually be new data to the public. But if there's a thirst out there right now, that April 30th date could be moved sooner. And it's really just a recap and a forum for people to ask questions, right? So if these people have these questions, instead of onesie twosie, they can come to the centralized forum and ask the questions in that venue, if that's something this committee wants to entertain.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Jeff. And I think on that, I mean, so when you say going backwards, I mean, we've, all the previous projects have been presented buku times. I think it's time to move on and say, hey, we reviewed these other ones. This is where we're going and going forwards. The going backwards stuff and looking at, the recap and all that, we're done with that. So.
Right. So focus on just here is the proposal, which is the option AR4, which has the different middle high school, which has these things. It's a shorter presentation. And then for Q&A, you can answer the questions about the why, but you're really just focused on a shorter presentation about the solution that you've moved forward with.
Correct. And then we could talk about probably, like you said, the steps and the choices going forwards, because, these are the things that we need to develop to, finalize what the final school is going to look like and feel like and cost. So, all right. I think we need to move on. If I think, are you guys set? I know there may be more questions, but I think we'll have to have those forwarded. Send them off to either Kim or Jeff and Mike. Did you other guys have anything else that you needed?
Only in the sense that if you do want to move the forum to before April break, which would be the week of April 14th, that's 4 weeks from now. So we would have to start, wheels start to grind about getting that ad out there, getting it posted, et cetera. So I do want a decision on that tonight, if that's where you guys want to go.
Well, I think that's fine. Diane, what's your thought?
Not going to be here. I think earlier is probably better.
Okay.
Right now,
All right.
the week of April 14th looks pretty open from a, meetings on our side at the schools.
What day of the week is that, Bob?
Well, the
14th is
14th
a
is Monday,
Monday,
but that
but
whole
you could do-
week, that whole week looks like, at least on my calendar, I don't have a lot of evening commitments.
Any chance you could do a tour while they come?
Yeah?
I think that's really where people need to see what's going on.
And I also like Mike's idea of a Saturday where, people don't have to all come at the same time.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
definitely,
open
yeah,
house
we wanted
style.
to do a tour before a forum.
or as part of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's up to you. Mike and I aren't available on the 17th, that Thursday, and I'm not available that Monday. So Tuesday and Wednesday, if that works for Mike, would work for us, or it could also be the week before if you wanted.
Well, let's just stick to that week. We'll stick to that week and do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll just have to, let's pick Wednesday for now and we can see the availability of people.
Mike, does that work for you?
The Thursday, like you said, I think that's out, Jeff, but
Yeah.
Right.
So
Monday,
Wednesday, the
Tuesday,
16th.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at my calendar right here.
Tuesday, Wednesday that week works for me.
Tuesday,
Tepe.
Tuesday, the 15th, I have, doesn't work for me in the evening, but Monday and Wednesday does.
Let's do Wednesday.
Yeah,
So we'll replace the SBC with a public forum because I had tentatively penciled in the 16th for an SBC.
Is that gonna be virtual or live?
Well, if we're gonna go for a tour of the school, we probably ought to do it live.
And
No, I'm
where
not being a
would-
wise guy. I'm saying,
No, I
yeah.
know. Where would you do it?
We'd have that, we could have it at the
Auditorium
cafeteria,
again, yeah.
or at the
So-
auditorium.
That you can't have it done because that's when the all school art show is, and there's a concert that night.
Oh, that's not on my calendar.
Hmm.
Thank you, Robin.
Mhm. It's on from 5 to 7 is the art show on the 16th, and then there's a concert after that at 7. So there'll be people there, I guess, but not
Yeah.
for the reasons we want.
Yeah, great catch. Thanks, Robin.
I think we're trying to push this and it's not gonna work that week.
Well, the next week's vacation is the next week's.
Yeah,
The
next
the
week is
following
vacation.
week is school vacation week. Yep,
Oh, that would
that's
put us
kind of
back
why we picked the week
30th.
after.
Yeah.
I mean, the content's essentially there. You could go the week earlier if you want, which is
Yeah, but the
Choosing that
question
week
is
from
not
now,
just what
but-
are we gonna hold, but how are we gonna promote it?
right.
Comment made earlier is we've had forums where nobody came. How do we get 100 people there?
With the
Well, I think
tour, with the
part of the
tour.
thing is we've got the group, we've
Yeah.
got the parents group, which will help. I think that will help. And we could actually ask them to see if they could reach out to people other than parents to get people to come. I think the only way
You don't need, or you don't need parents of students there, right? You want people outside of that.
That would be better to get more of them
Yes.
involved, right? So they can come ask their questions and we can figure out what drives them, right?
So you
Okay,
stick
so
with the 30th?
The 30th is National Honor Society's in the National Honor Society induction in the auditorium that night.
29th.
29th is a school committee meeting. With how about the 28th?
28th.
Just the
Select
first day
board
back
meeting.
from vacation, sometimes you get a lower turnout there.
There's a select board meeting, but that's okay.
Or the Thursday.
May 1st.
Meeting?
When's your town meeting again?
Town
The
meeting is the 5th.
So you kind of might want a breathing room with that, but
so how about May 1st?
Yeah, but this doesn't have anything to do with the town meeting.
no, I just meant as people start to think about which night meetings they're gonna go to, they gearing
Right.
up for one
Yeah,
or two night town meeting, they don't wanna spend their Thursday before there. But it works, I mean, it can work on our end for sure.
all right, May 1st then?
May 1st.
Okay.
And Rich, if there's some kind of handout or something that night, we should probably make the copies available for town meetings so people can pick it up. It's another opportunity where people come together and there's a handout, not that there's going to be on the agenda, just an information
Yeah, an
handout.
information table about it.
Yeah,
And it could have the town website, so it's, here's the school, here's if you want information, here's the website, here's if you have questions, you can email them to whatever. I think, I mean, it's all about getting the information out, so.
right.
I think that if it's possible, having a board with the layout of first and second floors for the AR4A would be very good.
Yeah, I think Chris is still tweaking those though, correct, Chris?
Well, there'll always be a work in progress, but yeah,
But if you combine the meeting, the May 1 meeting with a tour, and then you have those boards out there, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and even like I think the massing drawings are really give you an indication too.
Yeah. No, I think the massing drawing definitely did. It was good visual, so.
So does that mean there are no SBC forums in April?
Correct.
No, we still had one planned for the 16th,
Okay,
SBC meetings.
SBC meetings, not forums.
not a forum.
Not a
correct?
forum, correct.
Okay,
But again, I haven't received any feedback about conflict, so this is just a
Yeah, I can get you that.
proposal.
I could get you stuff tomorrow, Mike,
Thanks, Bob.
because there are a few. of
I'm
course.
sure there are. We're all busy, right? So I get that, there's bound to be some conflicts, but obviously, Bob, you're critical to this, especially, so we'll want to
Yeah.
work with your schedule.
okay, so, all right, good. So maybe if you have a handout then, and maybe if you have the plans or something, we can work off of that for Robin and Shayna. If it's just informational, right? That's okay.
Correct.
Okay,
And
Well,
we
the
can
beauty of
use-
the beauty of having boards, like Diane mentioned, they're multi-purpose. I mean, if you had a couple of them, they can put them up in the school, they can put them up at the town hall.
yep,
So it's out
Mhm.
there, keeping the information in front of people.
yes.
I'm not sure who can do one.
Chris
Chris,
can
is
put-
that-
they can print
that's-
them. They can print them and put them on a board.
What?
Chris can do that.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, we just need some feedback from you about what you'd like to display, what information, if it's just floor plans, if it's, site plan, that
First
type
and
of thing.
second floor and maybe massing. As long as we have some site. We'll have site on the first floor, and then a second floor, and then massing.
What's massing?
It's the building in perspective. so it looks
volumetric.
like you're looking at it.
Standing on the ground looking up.
It's three-dimensional
3D.
views.
Okay, let's wow them.
All right, so, I think that's good. So, Mike and Jeff, I think we're set with you. We're gonna jump on to invoices.
Can I I'm just gonna throw something out there, just not for discussion, but just to think about, and I've talked to some people about this, and Jim, you brought it up earlier about the fields.
You do this at every meeting. You
I
get
know,
that,
I just
right?
want to keep it
Do you?
people's minds.
Okay,
Our fields are deplorable. The building is the #1 priority. I'm hoping that we can do something like a separate article on a warrant that says, if the school building passes, would you be in favor of, addressing the fields? So I just want to keep that in mind as well.
Okay,
wait
and
a
that's
minute.
good. And wait, Alan, let me talk, okay? So I applaud the thought and I understand. I can tell you right now, that is suicidal. If we bring up spending any more money, we might as well just pack up right now and go home. It's just not gonna happen. So, I mean, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I think if we try to dilute the message, we're gonna lose everything. So that's my take on it.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with Bob, they are deplorable, but you're mixing, you're throwing too much at people and they'll just freak out.
My thinking is it would be contingent on the school pass. If the school doesn't pass,
But now you'll have people
So-
saying, now look what happens. Now we can't pass the school because there's gonna be another billion in fields. It's too squishy.
Yeah,
all right, well, like I said, I want to throw it out there.
I love your persistence.
Never say die.
I applaud
right.
your persistence.
Okay, we good, Rich?
Yep, we're good. Let's go. Well, no, we have to approve invoices and minutes, and then we still have a PBC meeting. But
Right.
for right now, we need to approve minutes. So, sorry, we need to approve invoices. So I'm going to start off with, I have an invoice from Tappe Architects for the month of February for the amount of $18,500 for services provided. I make a motion to pay that.
Second.
All right, motion's been paid and seconded. I'm gonna do it by a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so it passed unanimously. Second item on the agenda would be for a bill for Vertex for the same month of February for the amount of $22,873.50 for services provided for the school building project. Motion's made to pay the bill.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
A motion passed unanimously. Next item on the agenda would be to approve the second set of meeting notes that were sent out. There was a couple of revisions that were made to it. Our clarifications for the meeting for February 26, 2025 for the school building committee. I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded.
I
All in
think,
favor?
Rich, I think we need to have one of the PBC people, or is this an SBC minutes?
This is SBC.
Okay, never mind.
But, so I make a motion to, approve the minutes as written. Do I
Second.
have a second? Okay,
Yeah.
motion's been made. Yep, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you for that. So that will wrap up the, school building, committee meeting. So right now, if the school members are all set, we could, jump off onto the permanent building, committee meeting.
Great,
So,
thank you.
I think-
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks.
And, thank you. All right, so, let's see, this is, now the, the permanent building committee meeting. So the first item is the Lansing Millis, update. We sent out a bid for the, for repairs on the project. So that went out to public bid last Friday. And so the bids will be out. We gave them a couple of weeks for that. Once we receive bids, we'll be able to review and select a contractor to go ahead and do the work. So the roofing was bid, some partial repairs to the masonry, power washing, cleaning, and painting of repairs to the existing trim and painting. We didn't bid the full masonry repair at this point in time. We're going to keep that as a separate item. We did that for the reason of keeping the try to keep the price down to an amount that we would be able to accommodate. So that's where we're at with that right now. The other item on the agenda is a vote to close out the DPW project. So the DPW building is done and 100% complete, and the DPW director asked if we would be able to close that project out. And Kim, we have no outstanding bills, so we're ready to close this.
Right, yep.
Okay, so I make a motion to close out the DPW project. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded, and I'll do this by a voice vote, a roll call vote, just because it's the final vote. So I'm voting yes. Diane,
Yes,
Jim McCaffrey,
Yes,
John McDonough,
Yes.
and I think that's it for PVC, right?
yep.
Yeah, so,
Let me just say one thing. Bob Weiss is working on that one stop to get money for the Lansing
Yeah,
train station. So he's working on that right now.
nope, that's great. So like I said, we've got a portion of that under, to go forwards, and then if that ends up rolling in at some point in time, then we'll be able to augment, what we have to go forwards. So. All right, and the next item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes of January 22nd. So I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right, great. So that takes care of that. So. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I think that's it. Was there anything else that we missed, Kim? Are we good?
No, but people might be interested to know that we had $367,710 left in the DPW budget. So that's going back to the town.
oh, I thought you
So
were
we
gonna write me a check, Kim.
Came in under budget.
Kim,
Well,
say that again slowly.
Okay. $367,710.40
Under budget.
under budget.
Excellent.
Yep.
Good work, committee. Again.
we'll use that as part of our marketing tool.
It continues,
Yep. So, all right, well, good. Well, once again, thanks everybody for taking some of the time in your afternoon, and I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
second, third, fourth, and
All
fifth.
right.
seventh.
All right. Motion's made. All in second. All in favor. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Go
Thanks.
home,
everybody.
Rich. Go
I
home.
am. I'm at
Bye-bye.
the dump. I'm on my way home. See ya.
Bye-bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Now.